we spun out a couple of businesses internal to a digital platform, and we've done a lot of digital transformation, although we still have a lot of legacy systems that we're stuck with, as we all are. So a couple of things that were touched on before. I think the ROI is coming up short because you have to realize you need data governance, as Tabitha said. The single source of truth is a mandate of every CIO. And it doesn't have to be all in one location, but it has to be able to connect to what the truth is. So as you digitally transform and you go back into your systems, you might not have that source of truth to get the information and move it faster, or you might be able to order within 3 seconds and you're delivering in 4 days, which might not be acceptable, right? So I think that's one of the dilemmas around the digital and or the way you're holding data. Like a customer, an e-commerce customer is not a commercial customer, where you've got to have credit limits and credit checks and PO validations and all that. And a lot of our systems are stuck that way. I think that's one part. I think the lack of, and I agree with Bobby, the lack of embracing of the DevOps model. We embrace the DevOps model for emerging technology. I agree 100% with everything you're saying. Time to market is key. So you can digitally transform, but if you don't embrace the DevOps model, you're in big trouble.
Third core principle of DevOps, according to the forefathers of DevOps, and you'll see in that book, is experimentation and scientific approach to how you actually conduct business. Experimentation inherently means you're going to have failure. So you have to create a high trust organization who is willing to fail and learn. And I know I have one company that has over 800,000 telemetry metrics on everything they do. Now, they don't look at all that data all the time, but at least they know when they need to find that information to validate a business hypothesis and how it reflects in the human behavior of how the customer consumes their digital experience. They know they can go back and find that data. So, the 3 core principles of DevOps, got to fast flow. You got to get ideally single piece change through the entire value stream from the head to developer to production. You're basically creating small teams. You're trying to remove queues that we all have in the silos within our organization, from development to test to production. So you're trying to create small teams, high trust, high performance organizations, and a generative culture, I would call it, one where information is freely shared, blameless culture, sharing ideas, and failure is a good thing in that culture, and a continual experiment to do that. And the second main principle of DevOps is the feedback loop. So every time there is an issue, you scrum around that issue, you fix the issue, and you make it a global learning opportunity so that it doesn't happen again.
I would just add too, you have to be, I think, careful in the measurement of the return as you move to an agile environment, agile at scale, where culture that you're trying to drive iteration, right? So it's we often get stuck in this mindset of digital transformation is a start and an end point, right? Like, I'm going to go implement this system and then I'm done, and I can just measure the return on that system, and it's its own thing. I'm going to go transform something else, but that's not the way new systems work, right? You're putting that system in, you're iterating on it, you're making it better, every 2 weeks, every month, every quarter, you're doing 100 changes a day or 1,000 changes a day.
500 changes a day, yeah.
So you have to be careful about how you apply the financial metrics to, something that is in evolution, right? And step back and understand that, you just don't have the certainty that you think you have, right? You need to operate in this environment of uncertainty. And move towards eliminating that uncertainty and make that system better every day. That it's not a waterfall approach anymore. And if you're going to believe that, then you need to start moving your metrics and aligning to that, and not thinking, well, I'm going to do this in 2018 and then measure its ROI by 2019. Because you got to constantly invest and grow that system.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think this whole concept of ROI in the Agile DevOps world is a little alien, because you have to start to think of products and product lines and value streams. And then you have to go, how much do I invest in that product and product line per year on a consistent basis, in and out? And you are doing that traditionally, because every year you stand up projects to do digital transformation and mobile enhancements, phase 3B, phase 4, but you don't create that constant stream. And then you measure value on a much more smaller micro level. I invested X dollars, delivered Y feature, here's its value, as opposed to this big business case with an ROI that you kind of fudge to make it look positive, and then you try to fudge and show that it returned. That doesn't work in the Agile DevOps space. You need to have this product-centric approach with value streams that you consistently invest in, and you just look at divesting in one and investing more in another and having it structured that way. Almost like trying to make your finance teams also follow some of the principles of DevOps, because you need that part of the organization to also transform.
The discussion of monetization is actually, I think is actually a very dangerous thing, because let's face it, a lot of projects got initiated not expecting a monetization. They were a test and learn. They were to learn about how AI should work, what kind of data we should be holding, how should we be doing things. But because of incumbent models around the finance department and getting projects approved and things like that, numbers were created. And it goes back to, what was the original objective of this, and was the objective achieved, monetary and non-monetary? And I worry about organizations cooling off innovation within their organization by all of a sudden looking at a project that was really not meant to have a clear monetary return, but an operational return, for instance, or creating a platform upon which other things could be done, and then being criticized because it was not successful because it didn't make an imaginary financial number, right? It did all of the other objectives, but because it didn't make this, it gets criticized, and that can have a cooling effect.
I'm going to take a different perspective sitting from where I am, because I would respectfully say that boards are looking at bottom line. And so I hear, the talk about it, but the boards are all about ROI, what's the bottom line, what's this going to do for me? And Maria's not here, but it's about use cases. I'll invest time and energy, but I won't invest a lot of time and energy unless I see that direct link to the bottom line. And so that's the challenge, I think, around the table is we can try, we can experiment, we can do a lot of things, but at the end of the day, you have to, again, sitting from where I'm sitting, the board is going to just jump to the bottom line and then say, what have you done for me lately in that regard? And I think that's the challenge. So putting on my CIO hat when I used to sit there, that's the challenge of how do we strike that balance of experimentation, of measurements, of metrics, and yet meet that demand of the board and of the CEO, if you will. So I respectfully say that's the challenge that we have right now of those two somewhat unique objectives.